All right, taking a look at the game two draft. We start off with Rumble Maokai Oriana ult. So we're gonna have all right, looking at the game two draft, we're starting off with Rumble Maokai Oriana, Biggs Lee Sin, and Diego. So we're gonna have a completely different game. Those three bans by Team Liquid saying nope, we're just gonna completely change scope right here. Then pinching the jungle pool by both sides. Zaya Rakan making it through for Team Liquid. This is so strong, guys. Anytime you can get this pairing, I think you are supremely favored. Zaya has a ridiculous win rate. She's the highest present AD carry as of this moment. She's the highest present champion and the highest win rate, which is insane. Basically, every time that you compare with Rakan, it's even better. I like that Team Liquid has gone back to comfort. Kindred on Piosik, got Summit on Renekton. I don't like seeing his Cassante. I'm just being frank. I'd rather not draft that champion for them anymore. And in fact, I'd like to give it to them, just similar to how I want to give BDS Renekton. I want to give Summit Cassante. So anyway, so I'd like to see the comfort picks here. We do see a Draven Renata, so they're going to drop the gauntlet to them saying, hey, we think that we can challenge this lane with our Draven. Renata can be a little bit of a liability, though, not that strong, especially up until level 10. Once she's 11 and a little bit more lockdown, that tends to be hyper late game. Vi Syndra is a classic pairing, very easy to synergize the two of them. That said, I don't think Syndra is very strong. The strongest part of this game though is going to be this Kennen counterpick into Renekton. Kennen, I think I picked for Crystal Ball as the highest win rate champion, expecting it to see it as a Renekton counter early, often, as many times as possible. It is so strong, especially now that Renekton lost some of its magic resist. So we'll see what we end up with. Strength versus strength. We have top side here, favored to Kennen. But the Zaya Rakan we have to think is very strong. So let's check out the game. Okay, here we go, loading into the game. What dragon are we going to get? Infernal to start us off. I feel like every time that they've gone through this animation, it's been an Infernal map. Could just be bias, you know. All right, mid lane, Nico's pretending to be 80 carries, which is what they will normally do. Looking for early game aggression. We tend to see leashes from Dravens because it empowers them to get extra axes off into the early phase. Something that we haven't seen but is a potential play. If you do go for an invade, you can actually go in and just cut off that first wave and start stacking axes earlier as Draven, and then you move around. You actually catch. You wait for your Q cooldown, then you move along, you reactivate Q, and then you have your axes spinning. And because he's such a high threat champion, it is a play that's available. It's super high risk. It's very rare. I don't expect to see any of these teams try to do that. But if they did, they'd be looking to take control of this quadrant with a late invade and then go ahead and grab the wave and start stacking the axes. Instead, they opt to just hide in the bush. This is a nerf to the Draven. I know that this world's meta is entirely about raptors. Everyone's about the raptor respawn, and everything is about which path you can take and whether or not it gets invaded, and whether or not your raptor respawn is yours or theirs. We see that Vi starts with her own raptors. But that being said, sometimes leashing is good, right? It can be good, especially for exactly Draven. Draven wants the extra axe catches. You can pull the camp down, right? So if you're starting here, you can just pull it this way, and then you're still pretty flexible on the different paths you can take. All right, Draven Renata getting aggressive here into Zaya. Zaya's a little bit weak at level 1, only having the Q. Q is best if you intend on going E, but this is a mistake in this lane. You want to start W on Zaya whenever you pair the two of them, because the added impact of Rakan being able to have those extra auto attacks with the extra damage is meaningful. It means that you don't have a pullback at level 2, and that's okay. You don't need it. That's not a huge source of the damage for you. That's more for peel for your setup. You'd much rather have the kill threat. All right, Piosik going for full clear into invade here. We'll see how this comes out. There's no prio in the bot lane. So is he going to go for a gank or is he going to go for an invade? It should be gank because invade would be answered by 2 with no answer. Rakan going in, everything, spending it all going forward. And we see the pullback and you see the weakness right there of the Zaya not being able to get the extra damage. They do end up getting the kill with Piosik. I imagine that was marked as well. So we should have it. Yeah, it does look like he has the Draven mark. Although it's there. that mean he was late in getting it? I don't know. We'll have to see. Levi ends up coming around to pick up blue. For some reason, taking blue first rather than Gromp, that's just an inaccuracy. You tend to want to do this. You want that Gromp to be respawning, especially with an ability like Denting Blows. Oh, the Kindred mark, super unlucky for Kindred that it spawns right there. But we're going to have a crashing wave here. Rakan did die for that, picks up refillable for himself, but now has the dematerializer. This is something that you want to use, not just willy-nilly. It's not just about picking up stacks on the relic shield. You want to use it at precise moments to create pushes for yourself, and then and only then. A lot of people I see using this in solo queue are sort of griefing their lane states, creating pushes from freezes, or creating a push too early, making a wave crash in when you'd like to have it set up for longer. All right, Draven has the longsword, so he does have an advantage in the combat stats. This gold is most meaningful in the early game, so you're going to see him try to lean on this as much as possible. And this was the problem with that little bit of a pushback and why you need Kindred to basically revisit right away, because right now that lane is pushing out. Draven is just waiting for last frames possible on his attacks. This lane is so effed for Team Liquid, right? This lane's pushing out, it's into a Draven. Levi's actually going to relieve the stress here by going forward. You don't really accomplish that much by showing that you're here. It allows the enemy team to actually go be strong on your side of the map. They already know that they're folding here. One of the things that they can actually do is just send Xayah back and have Rakan go roam. You can even send both people for a rotation, try to get a 3 or a 4v1 in mid lane, try to secure a kill. You can rotate over someone that's stronger at level 6, like Renekton. He could come over here and then keep his teleport up. But in this situation, you see Xayah just getting bled out. Draven needs to trim this just a little bit. You're going to see him try to hold this line of scrimmage. Rakan might be willing to int some of his HP to get this wave the rest of the way in. Oh, that was a little bit of an overpush there by Slater. Okay, this wave's bouncing out. I don't know why he opted to do this. That lane was in a completely frozen state. I don't know why he wants to play aggressive. This must be Vi calling for Dragon. This is one of those examples where Dragon can shoot you in the foot. You're giving up a checkmate position here. You're significantly stronger. You're spinning all your axes. You have plenty of mana as Draven. You have the lane exactly where you want it. It is gankable. It's freezable. You can do whatever you want. But by saying, hey, we want to create a play, please push bot so that we can go get Dragon, you're actually relieving all of that pressure now. Don't like that P06 here shadowing the play. Potentially thinks that he's guarding against a dive. But again, like this situation, you can almost expect that. I mean, they could dive. I don't mind it in response to a dive, actually. That's not so bad. Especially with the call that Syndra's MIA from here. Eon, please slow down. Slow down. Please allow this wave to stay here. No, they opt to go forward. They think that they've got a kill on pallet. They've got the initial engage. We're going to get the drawback, which means we're going to get a kill. The fact that they give this up is tremendous. So P06 ends up paying off by sitting in the down bush. And I have to wonder, like, what the hell were you thinking? GAM is just trolling. They had a checkmate position. Then they move forward, inexplicably start crashing that wave. And if you're going to crash it, Vi was already down in the vicinity. Syndra was down in the vicinity. Go ahead and make a play out of it, right? Go ahead and dive them if that's what you're going to do. And if you want to go get Dragon, diving them, getting the extra kill onto Draven so you can cash in, like that would be an obvious play you could make. Instead, they just back up, and it means that Renata dies in a situation where your Draven's up 20 CS. Like, this is inexplicable. And it's a complete blunder on the side of GAM. TL finding the right answer. Happy for them. This is going to be a tremendous slingshot for them to be able to get back into this game. It wasn't Rakan. It was actually Kindred that picked it up. That's actually best case scenario for them. Means that we're going to have a very early Triforce from Kindred with these 2 kills. She's going to start battling for mark. She has another mark right here. You see her keeping the Draven mark up here. Oh, Vi dashing over that wall. This could be potential suicide. This ward was in play. Renekton's in a better position. APA can actually front off for this. Gets the root turning on to Caddy. Means that they get the Rakan knockup. They also get Nico knockup. They're going to flash forward. P06 going to go for this kill. No, he's not. He has to go for it. He has to go all the way. Now, abandoning the rest of his teammate, not realizing that he could have gotten the Lamb's Respite to save them. They end up getting this play called back, but the Draven ultimate. Oh, man, far side of it. Piosik, what are you going to do on the far side of this? You have to just... Meanwhile, Xayah picking up plates in the bot lane. So Yeon will get out of this situation. He should have been a complete non-factor in this game based on that decision at level 1, guys. That's how important it is. Level 1, this synergy, when you cast W, it gives the buff to Rakan. All right, the other things that you have in this lane together, the increased distance on the E for Rakan jumping back to Xayah, and then you have the, I should call it B. The empowered recalls, where one of them can start the recall. You can be 7 seconds into the recall and the other person can join. Go for it. You don't want to make use of every part of that synergy to take advantage of how strong this lane can be. Again, the play forward to get that first one. Actually almost knocks him out. You see Katie using the Scatter the Weak, Syndra's E to knock back. Make sure that there's nothing else coming in. Draven ult just missing. Oh, that is... I mean, I'll call it unlucky, but honestly, you know where the shape of that fight is going. You absolutely wanted it to be right around that bend, right? So you're shooting from here, the minimap's here. You know they're going past this. That's where you want to shoot. He ends up shooting thinking like they might go that way, but instead, like, you just have to take a moment, see which direction they're going. Could have hit literally everybody on the backswing if he had put that in the right direction. Draven. So normally we just want to see Draven as a counter pick to Vayne, a little bit to Kalista, and especially to Kai'Sa. This is where we expect to see Draven picked into. I don't like it into Xayah for multiple reasons. The AoE damage means that Xayah is just always going to be better in team fights. Even if Draven does get ahead, the scaling advantage and the range advantage will go to Xayah all day long. Secondly, like, you want to take advantage of a weak laning phase, and Xayah doesn't have a particularly weak laning phase. She has good wave clear. She can get in and out of those situations very easily. The reason that you're punishing Vayne is because Vayne can't push the wave. She can't get out of a bad lane state, right? Like, if you get there and you get that freeze, there's no tools available to a Vayne. Which is why sometimes we like to see champions like Zyra, where it's just like auto win from the support, or Zyra or Karma, right? You can have Karma here as well, paired with someone like Vayne, and that can help just push every single wave so that Vayne doesn't need to deal with that. And can get out of situations that are sticky against champions like Draven. This said, though, like, Draven against Xayah is going to be so weak later, even though he got 1 kill. It's not going to be enough, I don't think. Normally, you just have to snowball so much harder, which is why I'm so upset about that play down in the bot wave. Why they ruined their own checkmate is beyond me. Anyways, taking stock of what they have now, Serrated Dirk into Triforce. This is what we're going to see all tournament long. You go Serrated Dirk into Triforce into Collector, and then you build up from there, usually with Lord Dominik's. That is the biggest source of spikes. The early Serrated Dirk giving you the most power in the lane phase, and then Triforce being the biggest single spike in the game. So you go for that on so many of these carries. APA actually going for a little bit of a fool play there on Caddy. Knows that there's still no flash available. They have the timer down from that last fight, so beautifully done. Nico gets that kill, going to be big for them. Meanwhile, Rift Herald is going to be the source of 2 plates, so Draven getting significantly bigger. We also have Levi going back on the map to, looks like, defend against a mid lane push, which means that we are going to have some moments where Kindred, now coming back onto the map right now with the completed Triforce, is going to be very strong, especially since Vi is shadowing right now and has no kills. Will have the money from those 2 plates, although it was split multiple ways. Look at this fight. This is how you can win as Renekton versus Kennen. You basically have to go for all-ins, but you have to respect the damage that's coming back. I have spoken about it before. I'd like to, mention it again. Hex Drinker. Guys, Hex Drinker is so good into these champions because it plays defensively while also giving you kill threat. I understand wanting Merc Treads and saying, hey, look, it's a neat defensive item, I can move around, but you need to be able to threaten the kill on the way back. Movement speed from Merc Treads is not enough to threaten a kill, which means Kennen never needs to respect you. That means Kennen can put all of their damage into you, and you can end up buried in the top lane. That's exactly what ended up happening, and it's going to continue to happen. So this will be a point of weakness. This Renekton will be very weak. That said, Renekton can still do his job on very little economy, right? That's one of the things that makes him so good. Even when you counterpick him, he's still going to be able to dive in and find that stun, presumably on Draven on the endgame fights because of that low range. Missed calls there. Hey, I'm in. Hey, no, I'm not in. Beautiful. Just enough mana too. Worth noting, right? Like that could have gone very poorly if they had to go through another rotation of spells. The APA making up for it. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but again, you have that, Korea versus NA, Korea versus USA language barrier. What was happening? Whether or not Renekton was expecting Nico to come in, because he was doing fine in the Kennen portion of the fight. But I think APA was just thinking better of, hey, I don't quite have it. Maybe I don't have the angle. Might be worth going check at the end of the game. Gold snapshot. Gigabyte Marines winning everywhere except Kindred. So if the coaching staff is like, hey, Piosik's been playing great, but also Piosik is intending to make these games 1v9 games, then you have to get him off of supportive champions like Jarvan and put him onto carry champions like Kindred. So if this was a call from the staff to make this swap, I love it. Playing towards your team's strengths, right? What do your players do well? Feed into that. Summit, infamous for hating tanks, right? Sort of like someday they want to gap their opponents. They're like, I'm so much better than the rest of the talent in NA. Why wouldn't you just give me carries and have me carry through the top lane? Instead, playing on Cassante and losing, you give him fighters and see what he can do with it on the flip side. Similar from the jungle, right? If this guy is playing out of his mind and almost 1v9 carrying, don't give him Jarvan. And especially you saw what happened in game 1. Like that invade holding back the Aphelios from a perfect recall and instead getting them trapped. It ended up being okay because of missed plays by GAM on the punish. But if that's how they're going to be, and you're like, okay, here's who's playing well, here's what we're going to do. If you're getting ready, all right, so if you're a coaching staff watching the game, great. Like, you do want to be able to like analyze and go forward with ideas, but you have to assume that you're winning this game, right? Because your job is to think about game 3. You need to assume that you're going to win. If you're winning, it's going to be on the back of Kindred. Hold on, I'll hold that thought for a moment. Have upfront damage leading in from Syndra. Good job to punish the Rakan. We'll see if we get a continuation here. A couple ultimates were used there. Vi and Syndra's are down. Nico's is not quite up, which is why I don't expect any form of punish here. Renekton getting the inside track, moving to bot lane versus this teleport. Kadim actually moving to bot lane. Yeah, so it's just going to be to get the push and move over to Dragon. That means that they will get D2 for themselves. Team Liquid appropriately assessing that Kiaya is going to be alone in the top lane. That is a big mistake. Your entire team is going to Dragon. You have to respect this. You have to tuck yourself into the wall right here and then make the play. So Team Liquid actually getting something back for themselves that they shouldn't get. That is case example number 8, I believe, of Kiaya overstepping and dying when they don't need to. But what I was saying about the coaching staff, you have to assume that you're winning this game, okay? So when you're assuming it, now you're going to start thinking, what led us to win this game? Okay, Xayah Rakan exceptionally strong. We might say Renekton survived, whatever it is, having a fighter. It means that we didn't die to a counterpick in top lane. So when you're looking at the next draft, you should be looking for a very strong bot lane again. Look for the Xayah Rakan. You want to put Summit on a fighter, not caring whether or not he gets counterpicked, because it clearly didn't matter for the case of the game, like as it plays out. And you have to think of am I going to give to Piosik for the next round, right? So I need to have another carry, someone that can deal tremendous amounts of damage, play aggressively, something like Wukong, who has been performing well into some of the slower clear junglers. Wukong getting very aggressive in the stages. You have to think about who's going to be my next carry, because you have to assume that this is going to go, right? You're looking at this game with a 3-0 start and a 350 gold lead. You need to start preparing your mind for what's going to happen, right? They might ban all 5 of these champions. And so you need to start coming up with another roster that can benefit from that. All right, they have the Xayah cooldown, which means that they're able to get the engage, but she's about to come back up. Kindred ult might be enough for her to get her Feathers Fly past it. No, it just missed. 7 seconds left on the cooldown. almost buying enough time to get that. If they had been able to turn that fight, would have been absolutely fantastic. The good news is it will be available for the next fight. However, Lamb's Respite will not be. But 1, 2, 3, 4 are down. This means Team Liquid should look to play super aggressively. And specifically, these are going to be coming up right around the Baron time. So I want you to play aggressively for mid lane. I want you to get Prio if you're Team Liquid, and then force your way into this area. Get some deep vision. I want to see 2 lines of vision, and I want to see mid Prio while you have this lead in ultimates. Gaia about to die solo into Summit. Are you kidding me? You have to be careful at this stage in the game, right? Completed Stridebreaker. This is true ever since the changes to Nimbus Cloak and Stridebreaker being added to the game. All of the champions that used to be hard counters, like your Teemos, Kennons, even Quinns, right? When you have this ranged versus fighter matchup, you still have to be careful of this stage in the game because the ability for them to kill you is still there if they just flash forward and jump on you. Just saw it displayed. See whether or not they can turn that into any more pressure. Summit showing that he's still happy to carry from this position, even getting counterpicked, and at one point was down 20 CS. He now has a 10 CS lead for himself. Gaia has basically been inting this game away, giving Team Liquid some life. So again, looking into a draft, now you have to weigh the benefits of something like giving someone a champion again, right? They're going to feel super bad about the way that they performed. They're going to try to improve. The question is, do you think they're capable of addressing the mistakes that they make in the game? And can they use it as a learning rep? And then will they improve on it? Or are you going to say, no, that is a fundamental weakness and we should give it to them again because it is definitely going to be a point where that we can exploit later? That's what should be going into the staff's mind. They should be having a discussion. What I tend to see, a lot of these coaching staffs are just filled with ex-players that either played pro or were top 200 players, and they don't know that element of the game. That is something that you want to be doing. You're going to see this room. Eventually, they'll show a clip, and you're going to see 6 people in a room sitting on chairs, staring at a TV, and they're just watching it intently. Right, and they're fully immersed in this. What they should be doing in that time is having a discussion, right? What are the adjustments? Think of it like halftime in a football game. What adjustments can we make? Again, you have to assume that you're winning this game. If you're Gigabyte Marines, similarly, this is your only game that you're playing today, so you're going to have to play as if you're going to lose. If you're the coaching staff here, you're going to think, okay, what are the things that are going poorly in this game? What could cause us to lose? We're going to be blue team in the next draft, so maybe we can take advantage of certain things, but we're certainly going to be banning this. Are we also banning Ziggs, and are we banning Xayah? Are we going to give that? Like, is that going to be the next route that we have to ban those 3 champions just right up front? Are we going to give Ziggs? Do we have a plan against Ziggs? Caddy, I believe, plays Fizz pretty well. And so you could be looking for something like that. Oh, nice Baron steal there by Levi. Missed responsibility there by Core JJ on the knockback. Would have been tough to get all of those. Syndra, I like that. She found herself a flank. Is not able to get the kill. Yes, she is with the Leandries. Oh, is this another Leandries? Syndra. God, Syndra's been performing so poorly, and I swear it's because we have all of these Leandries going off. This is not how you want to play this champion. This champion needs to be able to 100 to 0 people. Is not the same as Orianna. You don't have the value of the shield that you can lean back on. So I don't mind having Rabadon's second to go into it, but I'd much rather see Luden's and Shadow Flame. Perhaps they're saying that we don't want it because we already have a heavy AP on Kennen. But I'd rather force the enemy team to build MR and then have Draven steamroll the game. Especially if they build early MR, like this guy will be so empowered off of these 2 items. All right, third item, we're going to see Bloodthirster here from Draven, and then Lord Doms to follow for sure. Bloodthirster being the biggest damage spike that you can get off of just raw values when you have super high scaling, and you're not playing against a tremendous amount of resistances. As we see here, there's none from the Renekton, so you don't need the Lord Doms, but he will go for that next to protect himself against the rest of the build. Vi will also have access to Black Cleaver and Denting Blows. Unless she opts to go for Spear of Shojin, which I don't think she will, but could happen. Let's see if we get this trap being played out. Pallet is baiting by stepping out for the ward. The rest of the team is in that bush. Let's see whether or not they get out cleanly. Don't buy the bait. Gigabyte Marines losing on the gold. This is basically, this says minus 300, but you should really consider it like minus 3,000 because of all the gold that you got from the Baron buff. You also got a half level basically across the board for all your team. Anytime you're giving up that much, it is a tremendous difference. Now, something we haven't spoken about, the Chemtech map, who it favors. It favors champions like Vi, favors Renekton. It's good for Rakan. It is notoriously awful for Draven. So a little bit unlucky here for GAM. Basically, this extra resource where people are going to be that much higher in health means that you're never looking for that execute as often. Also, it means that your low range is going to get exploited by people jumping over walls and hopping on top of you. It can be good for Kennen if you find that right spot where you can jump into the fight from with a blast cone, but you tend to not want to be stuck in an animation because if they get that upfront stun, you might never get the rest of your effects off. Oh, they find Piosik stepping forward. Xayah, or let's see, Nico and Xayah are not quite in position, but we get Lamb's Respite enough to keep them alive. And that means that Xayah and Nico are able to blow up the back half of the fight. This is Team Liquid going to take this game for themselves on the back of flexing into the jungle. Well played. There's zero chance that Piosik survives or that Kindred survives the ban phase next time. I assume Shadow Flame being completed here on Kennen. I don't think we're going to have any more, right? This is the end of the game. 15 seconds. They've got the minion wave. They can tank it up. They can use Rakan shields to keep the wave alive. See them going up there, step up into the wave. You tank some of the effect of the wave, keep the cannon alive as long as possible. Means that you deal extra damage to the turret. Well done by Team Liquid. We'll see what the adaptations are in the draft for Game 3.